can ask everyone to come on in and be seated. We're very pleased to have Anita Brunner and Mike Cohen playing some music for us to help us settle in and to prepare ourselves and to get into the proper mind frame to begin our service. So if we could everyone take a seat and use these opportunities over these next few minutes for a little silent contemplation. I want to thank Mike and Anita for helping to get us into that right mind frame for contemplation and consideration as we head into this Yom Kippur evening. We're going to begin on page 199. I'll ask Hilda Springer and Beth Smith to come up to light our memorial candle and the Yom Tov candles.
At this moment of solemn reflection, we call to mind the memories of our departed loved ones. May the souls of our dear ones enjoy eternal life, together with the souls of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all righteous women and men. May we be inspired to acts of justice and kindness in memory of all our departed. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
We gathered this evening in this place. As I walked in, someone remarked that it was the first time that they have been here in 3 years. And I know that that is true for others who are in the room as well. We're so pleased that we are able to gather. We are so grateful to God and to all those who made it possible for us to be able to gather with safety. I do want to take just a moment to point out that if, God forbid, there's an emergency and we need to leave the room, we have the glass doors over here. We have a door over to the front. There's also into the kitchen and through the kitchen. There's another door to the outside as well. And we would gather over at Rock Creek High School for further instructions. As we prepare now to take out the Sifrei Torah for Kol Nidre, I'm going to suggest that in this first round, as we're singing Kol Nidre, to think about where you've been this past year. What are some of the things that you might be ready to let go of? What are some things that you would like to carry with you that you may not have known before? And so I would ask you now to please rise as we turn to page 204.
בישיבה של מעלה ובישיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם הוויינים. בישיבה של מעלה ובישיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם הוויינים. בישיבה של מעלה ובישיבה של מטה, על דעת המקום ועל דעת הקהל, אנו מתירים להתפלל עם הוויינים.
Kol Nidre v'sarei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei u'shavuot tindarna udeish shabana uriaharimna vidasana anafshatana hayom kippurim zeh hayom kippurim haba aleinu l'tova
we prepare for the second singing through of Kol Nidre, we think about where we are right now in this moment. What are the things that may be fogging our brain from being able to be present? What are the things that we have to be able to celebrate?
Kol Nidre v'tzarei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinuyei v'kinusei Shavuot Din Darna Udeish Tabana Ude Acharimna V'dasarna Al Nafshato Alinu Letova Kolhon Icharatna Vehon Kolhon Yehon Shiran Kolhon Yehon Shiran Shavitin Beitelinu Mavutalin La Sharirin Vela Kayamin Nidrana La Nidre Vesarana La Esare Ushvutana La Shavuot
As we hear Kol Nidre this third and final time, we think about where it is that we want to be going in the coming year. What are the ways that we might not have gotten all the way to where we wanted to be at this moment and going to push ourselves a little bit more forward? What are some of the things that we've been thinking about and ways that we can be working on ourselves and on our world that we want to try and bring forth in this coming year?
Kol Nidre v'sarei וחרמי וקונמי וכינויי וכינוסי ושבועות תינדרנה ודיש תבנה ודאחרימנה ודסרנה על נפשתנה מיום כיפורים זה עד יום כיפורים הבא עלינו לטובה כל הון יכרתנה והון כל הון יהון שרן יהון שרן שוויתין בטלין ובוטלין לא שרירין ולא קיימין נדרנה ושבועתנה לשבועות ונסלח לכל הדת בני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם כי לכל העם בשגגה ונסלח לכל הדת בני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם כי לכל העם בשגגה ונסלח לכל הדת בני ישראל ולגר הגר בתוכם כי לכל העם בשגגה סלח נא לעוון הזה כי גודל חסדך וכאשר נשאת לעם הזה ממצרים וידהנה ושם נאמר ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כדבריך ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו
Couldn't help but be struck by the generations that we had standing here during Kol Nidre. Our congregation's storied past with its wonderful presidents, past presidents who have led us so ably, and our three Kol Nidres from Eleanor Lantner, from Becky Miller, and from the Cantor, each representing different generations, and just really an amazing thing to be able to see and to be able to feel that we truly are all here standing together as one, wherever we may fall within that range of ages, within that ranges of leadership. We are here on Yom Kippur, and we say that we're with you. We're with one another. We do not stand alone. We don't stand alone during the year. We're there to support one another, and to celebrate with one another. And so too today, and throughout Yom Kippur, we help each other to go through, to be able to feel the various feelings that the liturgy evokes from us, and to be able to think and to be able to know that you are surrounded by people who have your back. We will continue now in our Siddur, in our Machzor. So we rise on page 207 for Baruch Hu.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
And you may be seated.
Baruch Adonai Umavir yomu bevi laila, umavdil ben yomu ven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai, Hamariv, Aravim, Ahavat olam bet Yisrael, Charat Torah. Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu v'hem nege yomam v'layla ve'avatecha tasim imenu le'olamim Baruch ata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Elohim kevod malchuto leolam vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לעוד על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Adonai Elohechem emet ואמונה כוזכם עלינו.
In the middle of page 210.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה, זה לי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני כל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים.
Let's read responsively on page 211 on the left-hand side. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully and to awaken again to life, our sovereign.
Spread over us your canopy of peace, restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name.
Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us.
Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us, and you are the sovereign, merciful, and compassionate.
Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever.
Spread over us your canopy of peace.
Ata Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us and over all the people of Israel and over Jerusalem.
ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
We turn to page 212. We rise as we're able. Kiva Yom Hazai in the middle of the page, which will be followed by the Chatzi, Kaddish, and then the individual recitation of the Amidah, pages 213 through 221.
כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם לטהר אתכם מכל חטאותיכם לפני אדוני תתארו. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן.
One of the things that is special about Tikvat Israel is we have many learned members of our congregation who enjoy the opportunity to teach, and many people who enjoy the opportunity to engage in conversation and discussion. And so we've had this long tradition of our side trips during Yom Kippur. We are adding onto the complement that we've usually had during the day by adding one this evening, immediately following my remarks. Debbie Berlin will be leading one in the back of the sanctuary on Kol Nidre themes, applying them on Yom Kippur and throughout the year. So you are welcome after my remarks to go and join her, or of course to stay and continue in the service with us. So I heard recently that the musical Dear Evan Hansen closed on Broadway about 2 weeks ago. Now, this is a show that I think was the last show that our family saw prior to the pandemic, and it had a strong impact on me for a number of reasons. The show centers around the suicide of a high school student named Connor, who had always been ostracized, and a classmate of his, Evan Hansen, who was also nerdy and awkward. They weren't friends, but due to a misunderstanding with Connor's parents, Evan ends up creating a fake friendship after Connor's death, especially when he realizes it would provide him an opportunity to talk to Connor's sister Zoe, who he had long had a crush on. Connor really didn't have friends. His classmates thought he was crazy. They recalled a time when he threw a printer at the second grade teacher because he wasn't allowed to be the line leader. The best his mom could call him was complicated. His sister responded, "No, he's just a bad person." But suddenly, after Connor died, everyone wanted to feel that they were part of the tragedy. The student body president posted on her Snapchat story, and she invited other people to post tributes to Connor, and lots of students did, talking about their experiences with him, perhaps sitting next to him, or some other very low level of contact. The wave of sympathy expanded when Evan Hansen announced his plans to create the Connor Project, a major online presence with links to educational materials and a massive fundraising drive to help people like Connor. At a school assembly, Hansen gives a moving tribute that goes viral. They raise money to establish the Connor Murphy Memorial Orchard. As the momentum for all of this build, Connor's dad, who seemed to not really have much of a relationship with him at all, says, "I didn't realize Connor meant so much to so many people." But the sad reality of the show, and sometimes in life, is that while Connor was alive, he didn't mean very much to people. It was only after his death. I thought about this show a lot when I was reading Dara Horn's recent book, People Love Dead Jews. The premise of the book is that people around the world love to commemorate Jews from the past, while never talking about why or how those Jewish communities disappeared. It creates a romanticized history telling great stories of how Jews came to a particular place and flourished, and then moved on, without acknowledging that the Jewish community originally came to that place because they were fleeing persecution elsewhere, or that the reason that they moved on was that they were being murdered or no longer felt safe. Horn explains that there are countless monuments around the world testifying to the Jewish history of a particular area or building. In talking about these Jewish heritage sites, she says that these sites are presented as non-Jewish citizens and their benevolent government choosing to maintain this cemetery or renovate this synagogue or create this museum piece purely out of their profound respect for the Jews who once lived there. She, perhaps more cynically, believes that their main purpose is to bring in tourist dollars by presenting a positive view of the Jewish community in that country without what she calls the pesky moral concerns about why the Jews no longer live there. Provocatively, she claims that it would be better to call these sites property seized from dead or expelled Jews. Now, not surprisingly, I'm told that when the Women's League book group discussed this book a little while ago, there were a wide range of views, and many people felt uncomfortable both with her title and her thesis. I understand this. Like many of you, my parents and other family members have gone to visit many of these sites while they were on vacation in countries around the world, and they found it meaningful to do so. And in the context of a vacation, who wants to focus on the historic hatred of Jews? We live in a generation where we are free to travel and to live in almost any country freely and openly as Jews. While we are old enough to remember the stories of the Holocaust, there are only a handful of survivors left who can provide eyewitness history. And as I've said previously, even with rising incidents of anti-Semitism in America and around the world, today's anti-Semitism, at least in most of the world, is different. When an attack happens today, the government, police, and most of our neighbors rush to our side and defend us. 85 years ago, they would have been much more likely to join in the attack. Now, it's interesting that during the High Holiday Liturgy, we also often call upon the memories of dead Jews. We find it especially, of course, in the Martyrology service that we recite tomorrow morning, but also in many of the Piyutim. In one that we will recite in just a few minutes, we will ask God to answer our prayers, just as God has for our ancestors in their moments of need, and we name them and their crisis moment, each one individually. Sarah's infertility, Abraham and Yitzchak, each for different aspects of the Akedah, and it continues through a litany of our ancestors and their struggles over a millennium or more. And we ask God to answer our prayers here and now in this moment and elsewhere. We will also call on God to remember Rachel's tears and pray that they will provoke God's attribute of mercy and compassion. Note that in these prayers, we only ask God to remember our ancestors from their time of need, not necessarily their worthiness. So, for example, we ask God to answer us like God answered Jacob during his wrestling with the angel, but not about the time that Jacob tricked his brother out of his birthright. After all, we're trying to invoke mercy, not judgment or anger. But isn't that the same thing that the heritage sites are doing? When they try and draw on our heartstrings and tell the stories of Jews who lived there without necessarily mentioning the more difficult points about their origins or demise? I believe the difference comes from the perspective from which they are being told. When we stand before God and recite the Vidui, the confession, we beat our chests. We loudly proclaim a list of ways that we are imperfect and that we have sinned. And therefore, when we call on God to answer us like God answered our ancestors, there is an implicit understanding that they were not perfect either. And just in case God didn't understand it, we say it during the Vidui, crying out, Anachnu v'avotenu chatanu. We and our ancestors have sinned. Why do we mention that our ancestors also sinned? To emphasize that we are like them, and they are like us in our imperfections. We are asking God, who mercifully answered the cry of Joseph in the jail, despite knowing that he was an impetuous child, to please be merciful to us and forgive us despite our imperfections too. The problem at the heritage sites is that there is no confession, no admission of wrongdoing in many of them. They want to claim the merit of the ancestry without acknowledging that they and their ancestors have sinned. Horn gives the example of Harbin in the Manchuria region of China, which was developed as an industrial town in the early 20th century because it was at the crossroads of a new rail track between Russia and China. And it was built largely by attracting Jews who were escaping from Russian pogroms, who came and created this industrial city. Hosting more than 20,000 Jews at its peak and over 25% of the city council seats, the community flourished for a while, built many of the nicest buildings in town, lived a comfortable life, and established all the institutions that you would expect in a thriving Jewish community. But, as they say, there arose a new pharaoh who didn't know Joseph. In this case, it was the Japanese occupiers of Manchuria, in partnership with the White Russians, who came in and seized the Jewish community's wealth, destroying all they had worked to build. And that was followed in 1949 by Mao, when there were only 1,000 Jews left there, and the communists further restricted the rights of the Jews. Israel ended up, the new state, quietly paying extortionate rates to government officials, rescued most of those Jews. By 1962, there was only one Jewish person left in the town. But if you go on the Jewish Heritage Tour, there is no mention of Jews escaping pogroms or being forced to leave. The local government spent $30 million in 2004 to recreate an old synagogue and cemetery, develop a museum, and more. But as Horn notes, nothing in this museum explains why this glorious community ceased to exist. In other words, they, along with similar sites around the world, want to pull at our heartstrings and evoke our feelings of nostalgia and memory, but without doing the al-Chet that precedes it. But as our Machzor presents it, we can only call on that mercy when we admit that ein anu azeh fanim ukshe oref lomar lefanecha tzadikim anachnu v'lo chatanu, aval anachnu v'avotenu chatanu. We are not so stubborn and stiff-necked to proclaim that we are righteous and have not sinned. No, we say we and our ancestors have sinned. Therefore, if non-Jews want to invoke the memories of historic Jewish communities to draw in Jewish tourists, wonderful. But let them admit that they and their ancestors have sinned. Now, it's certainly not true of every memorial. The U.S. Holocaust Museum has a full section devoted to the questions about how the U.S. responded and whether Roosevelt should have done more. As Ken Burns' new documentary makes clear, the answer is yes. But in Germany, they have there the memorial of the murdered Jews in Europe. That's the name of the memorial. So it's very explicit. And in fact, on street level, it looks like a graveyard. So there, where they were truly trying to recognize what had happened, it turns out that they upset many Berliners, including German intellectuals like novelist Martin Walser, who said it was a ceaseless presentation of our shame. Now, thinking about today's anti-Semitism, the book acknowledges that there are many very important differences, but it also questions if the emphasis on these differences has numbed us to the true dangers that we do face. If we only focus on the Holocaust and the way it was uniquely evil, she posits that we don't react enough to today's anti-Semitism because comparatively it's not so bad. In certain ways I agree with her, in certain ways I disagree. Because sometimes I think we are too quick to label what might be appropriate critiques of Jews who do wrong and claim that that's anti-Semitism. For example, I don't think it was anti-Semitic for the New York Times to call attention to the use of government money for schools that do not teach the basic skills of math, reading, and science. I believe that is investigative reporting, and that exposed the scandal. The ones who exposed the scandal are heroic, helping to protect the children from a corrupt educational system that denied them their basic rights to a good education. Nor do I think it's anti-Semitic to hold Israel, its government, and its army responsible for their actions. Our discomfort sometimes with certain facts does not make the purveyor of those facts anti-Semitic. But there's also no denying the huge spike of anti-Semitic attacks and the violence of many of them. There are the well-publicized incidents, of course, the shootings at Tree of Life in Pittsburgh, Chabad in Poway, California, the supermarket in Jersey City, and more recently, the hostages at Beth Israel in Colleyville, Texas. There have been the vandalizing of synagogues throughout the country, as well as locally in Montgomery County last year, and right here 2.5 years ago. And there have also been dozens of individual cases of hate-related crimes against Jews, including assaults, stabbings, shootings, bomb threats. As I mentioned on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, my brother-in-law is a head of a small Jewish day school in Riverdale, New York, and he shared with me that he goes to work every day worried that there might be an attack. It's not right. We need to speak out. And we have seen increased incidents of Jews being excluded from the public square, especially but not exclusively on college campuses. This summer at UC Berkeley Law School, a pro-Palestinian group adopted a new bylaw that says, in the interest of the safety and welfare of Palestinian students on campus, our organization will not invite speakers that have expressed or continue to hold views or host or sponsor or promote events that are in support of Zionism, the apartheid state of Israel, and the occupation of Palestine. It then circulated this language, which was adopted by 8 other campus organizations in the law school, representing mostly minority communities. Now remember, this is not fringe members of society. Berkeley is ranked in the top 10 of all law schools in America. And as Berkeley's law school dean, Erwin Chemerinsky, correctly noted, indeed, taken literally, this would mean I could not be invited to speak to these groups because I support the existence of Israel, even if I condemn some of its policies. It also means that anyone affiliated with Hillel would not be eligible to co-sponsor events because Hillel identifies as a pro-Israel organization. This is truly dangerous. So what do we do? In general, we've seen 2 types of responses to today's anti-Semitism. Protests and condemnations on the one hand, silence on the other. The protests come in the form of vigils, marches, op-eds, memorial services. They are important because they provide comfort, they show solidarity, they raise awareness. But they also sometimes have the counter effect of raising the profile of the group and helping to spread its message. The silence also comes in many forms. There are the silent and purposeful non-reactions, aim to avoid giving the groups more attention than they deserve. There's a silence that occurs when people stop wearing a kippah in public or hide away a Jewish star pendant on a necklace. And there is the silence of Jewish and pro-Israel voices in public debate. Again, most notably on college campuses, but elsewhere as well. I understand both these reactions and see that in certain cases, each of them has value. But there's also a third way which Horn endorses, which is to create vibrant centers of Jewish learning and living. It is to overcome our fears of confrontation and be confident in our voice in the public sphere and in private conversations, sometimes to defend Israel, sometimes to advocate for change in Israel's policies. We shouldn't be afraid to do either one. The third way is to attend Israeli dancing, challah baking, Jewish study sessions. I believe that our continued existence, our celebrations of Jewish life, our learning together, and our continued care for one another, and our insistence that the world around us should be more just, provide greater freedom, that these are the ultimate statements that we will not be intimidated or defeated. It's one of the things that I love so much about the time that I spend at Camp Ramah, is that every time I look at the students singing and dancing and learning, I think about those who would have destroyed us and what they would be thinking now. Now, in fact, Horn actually found a way to both memorialize our past and to celebrate Jewish life at the same time through the study of Talmud. She found, despite her reluctance to do so from her baggage from day school, she found that studying the debates of rabbis from long ago actually allows her to take part in that amazing cross-generational conversation and to see how many of their struggles are similar to the ones she grapples with in her own life. Back in Deir Evan Hansen, we saw how Kauner was romanticized and recreated in death, and how his life took on new meaning, one that never could have existed while he was alive. But in death, he could inspire people and help everyone to recognize the need to take care of one another. Like Kauner, dead Jews are silent and acquiescent, and others can use them to tell stories that make them feel better about themselves. However, living Jews, at our best, can be agitators and change makers, which some may perceive as a real pain in the neck. Dead Jews may be easier to love, at least in part because they can't ask questions and don't force anyone to ask, could we be doing a better job? But thank God we are alive. We are living Jews, and since we are alive, we retell the story of when we were slaves in Egypt so that we can work together towards building a society where no one is enslaved. And since we are alive, we can continue to stand up for the downtrodden and call out injustices wherever they are. And since we are alive, we can continue to dance, to celebrate, to study Torah. Ultimately, I believe that the best way to fight anti-Semitism is for our continued living and thriving, building communities and raising children and grandchildren who understand the values of the Torah and its ability to improve our world. As long as we're able to do this, we will always ensure that we will triumph over those who hate. Page 223.
Ya'ale tachanuneinu me'erev v'yavo shavateinu miboker v'yera'e rinuneinu adarev ya'ale kolenu me'erev v'yavo tzidkatenu miboker v'yera'e pidyoneinu adarev ya'aleinu yeinu me'erev v'yavo slichatenu miboker v'yera'e ranakatenu adarev ya'alem minusenu me'erev v'yavo lemano miboker v'yera'e kipureinu adarev ya'ale en katenu me'erev v'yavo elecha miboker v'yera'e eleinu adarev.
We continue page 225.
Ya la la, 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 haneshama lach v'haguf polach chusa, chusa, amalach, haneshama lach, v'haguf shelach, Adonai, aseh leman shemecha. Tanu al shimcha Adonai aseh leman shemecha ba'avur kavod shimcha ki el chanun v'rachum shemecha leman shimcha Adonai v'salachta lavoneinu ki rav hu.
Responsively at the middle of the page on the left side. We come before you relying on who you are.
According to your glorious nature, help us.
You are known as gracious, compassionate God.
For Forgive then our sin, though it is great.
Your way is to be patient with sinners, not only with the righteous. That is the source of our praise for you.
For your sake, not ours, God, help us. See how we stand before you, humbled and empty-handed.
Grant relief to this driven leaf. Have compassion on that which is but dust and ashes.
Cast away our sins, be kind to your creations. No human being can plead for us. Have mercy on us.
Continuing on the following page.
Tavor al pesha v'timche Hasham ki yom vayityatzeh v'imohu sham tazin shavatenu v'takshiv menu mamar ke yom vayikra v'shem Adonai.
We rise as we're able.
Vayavor Adonai al panav, vayikra Adonai, Adonai, el rachum v'chanun, erech apayim, v'rav chesed v'emet, notzer chesed la'anafim, nosei avon v'fesha v'chata v'nakeh, v'salachta la'avoneinu l'chatatenu u'nchaltanu. Salach lanu avinu ki chatanu, mechalanu malkeinu ki fashanu. Ki ata Adonai tov v'salach v'rav chesed lechol korecha.
And you may be seated as we turn to the next page.
Ya Eloi, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, ya Eloi, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la.
As clay in the hand of the potter who thickens or thins it at will, so are we in your hand, guardian of love. Recall your covenant. Do not heed the accuser.
Ki hinei kachomer biyad hayotzer, birtzoto marchiv uvirtzoto mekatzer. Ken anachnu biyadcha chesed notzer labrit habet ve'al tefen la'yetzer. Ki hinei ka'even biyad hamsatet, birtzoto oches uvirtzoto mechatet. Ken anachnu biyadcha mechaye umemotet labrit habet ve'al tefen la'yetzer.
At the bottom of the page.
Ki hinei kairia biyad horokem, birtzoto meyasher uvirtzoto me'aket. Ken anachnu biyadecha elkano v'nokem labrit habet ve'al tefen ליצר, כי הנה ככסף ביד הצורף, ברצותו משגשג וברצותו מצרף, כן אנחנו בידך ממציא למזור טרף, לברית הבט ועל תפן ליצר.
Page 229.
אל מלך יושב על כיסא רחמים, מתנהג בחסידות בכל ימות המעבר יושב ראשון. אל הורית לנו לומר 13, זכור לנו היום ברית 13, כמו שהדעת לעניו מקדם כמו שכתוב, וירד אדוני בענן ויתייצב עמו שם, ויקרא בשם אדוני.
We rise.
ויעבור אדוני פניו ויקרא אדוני אדוני אל רחום וחנון, ארך אפיים ורב חסד באמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקה, וסלחת לעווננו ולחטאתנו ונחלתנו. סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו, מחל לנו מלכנו כי פשענו, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח, כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח, ורב חסד ורב חסד לכל קוראיך.
We'll remain standing as we turn to page 233. The ark will be opened. As we prepare to recite Shema Kolenu, we think about what it is that we want God to be hearing right now. What do you need for God to hear? That is what we all need to hear. The noise of our babes lifts our prayers higher.
Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel berachamim uvratzon et tefilateinu.
Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel b'rachamim uvratzon et tefilateinu.
Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva, chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Al תשליכנו מלפניך ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו.
אל תשליכנו מלפניך ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו.
אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו.
אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו.
אל תעזבנו יהיו לרצון רפינו וגיון ליבנו לפניך, אדוני צורנו וגואלנו, כי לך אדוני הוכלנו, אתה תענה אדוני אלוהינו.
The ark is closed. You may be seated. Let's return to the following page.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, סלח לנו, מחל לנו, כפר לנו. יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא ביי ביי ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא ביי ביי ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, כי אנו עמך ואתה אלוהינו, אנו בניך ואתה אבינו, אנו עבדיך ואתה אדוננו, אנו קהלך ואתה חלקנו. יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא ביי ביי ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, אנו נחלתך ואתה גורלנו, אנו צונך ואתה רוענו, אנו חרמך ואתה נותרנו, אנו פעולתך ואתה יוצרנו. יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא ביי ביי ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא ביי ביי ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, אנו רעייתך ואתה דודנו, אנו סגולתך ואתה קרובנו, אנו עמך ואתה מלכנו, אנו ממירך ואתה ממירנו. יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא ביי ביי ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא ביי ביי ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא 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 ביי, יא בא בא ביי, יא בא בא ביי, יא בא בא ביי 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 ביי, יא ביי ביי ביי, יא בא ביי ביי ביי.
Turning to the bottom of the page, we'll chant these next lines in English with you leading and me responding. You are gracious and compassionate.
We are insolent. obstinate.
You are gracious and compassionate.
We are obstinate.
You are patient.
We are sinful.
You are merciful.
Our days are a passing shadow, but you are the one who truly is for time without end.
And back to the Hebrew.
Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu, tavo lefanecha tefilotenu, ve'al titala mitchinatenu. שאין אנחנו הזייפנים וכשעורף לומר לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו ואבותינו חטאנו.
We rise as we're able.
Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi. Ay, 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 Hevinu, Behirshanu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tafalnu Sheker. Ay, 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 ay. Yatznu Ra, Kizovnu, Latnu, Maradnu, Niatznu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu Oref. Ay, 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 ay. Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Titanu. Sanu mizvotecha mishpatecha hatovim, ve'lo shava lanu, ve'ata tzadik al kol haba aleinu, ki emet asita, v'anachnu hirshanu.
And we remain standing as we turn to page 237 for the long vidui. We will, as we have done in previous years, do each of these three sections a little bit differently, an opportunity for us to think about each of them in different ways. We'll begin the first section quietly, individually, to ourselves. In the second section, we will recite them all together, beginning with the Hebrew and concluding with the English of each line. And then in the third section, we'll do the Hebrew responsively.
על חטא שקטן לפניך
החטא שקטן לפניך, באונס ובלט החטא שקטן לפניך, ואם אצלה החטא שקטן לפניך, החטא שקטן לפניך, החטא שקטן לפניך.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביצר הרע, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך ביודעים ובלא יודעים, ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו כפרנו, ועל כולם אלוה סליחות, סלח לנו מחלנו כפרנו. על חטא שחטאנו lefanecha through denial and deceit. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha by taking bribes. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha by clever cynicism. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha by speaking ill of others. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha by the way we do business. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha in our eating and drinking. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha by greed and oppressive interest. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha through arrogance. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha in everyday conversation. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha through conspiratorial glances. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha through condescension. Ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha through stubbornness. For all these sins forgiving God, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement. Ve'al kulam elo aslichot, selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam elo aslichot, selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. Al chet shechatan lefanecha, be free, cut all.
And we have sinned against you by rashly judging others.
Al chet shechatan lefanecha, b'tzdiat reya.
And we have sinned against you through selfishness.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bekalut rosh.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha through stubbornness.
Al chet shechatan lefanecha beritzat raglayim lehara.
And we have sinned against you through gossip.
Al chet shechatan lefanecha bishvuat shav.
And we have sinned against you through baseless hatred.
Al chet shechatan lefanecha bitzumet yad. Ve'al chet shechatan lefanecha
by succumbing to confusion.
Ve'al kulam elo aslichot, selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu. Ve'al kulam elo aslichot, selach lanu mechalanu kaper lanu.
You may be seated. We turn now to page 240 for the piyut that I had mentioned previously in my remarks, calling on God to answer our prayers as God has answered the prayers of others. And as we do and we recite the words that are in front of us, I'd also invite you to think about who are the people in your life who have inspired you through their faith, who may have led you on your path that brings you to where you are Jewishly. And think about ways that you would want to invite them in and invoke them as well.
Mishehana l'Sara imenu biziknata hu yanenu. Mishehana l'Avraham Avinu behar haMoriah hu yanenu. Mishehana liYitzchak benam kishenekad al gabei hamizbeach hu yanenu. Mishehana liRivka beher Yonah hu yanenu. Yaakov beveit El. Hu yanenu mishehana leleya beonya. Hu yanenu mishehana lerachel beitzvona. Hu yanenu mishehana leYosef beveit hasurim. Hu yanenu. May the one who answered the Hebrew midwives as they stood at the birthing place. Hu yanenu. May the one who answered Yocheved, having faith on the bank of the Nile. Hu yanenu. May the one who answered the people Israel on the shores of the sea. Hu yanenu. May the one who answered Moses standing on the slopes of Sinai. Hu yanenu. May the one who answered Miriam with her well of water. Hu yanenu. May the one who answered Aharon offering incense to God. Hu yanenu. May the one who answered Pinchas seeking his place above the crowd. Hu yanenu. May the one who answered the daughters of Zelophehad standing their ground. Hu yanenu. Mishe'ana lechol hatzadikim v'hachasidkot v'hachasidim v'hachasidot v'hatmimim v'hatmimot v'hayisharim v'hayisharot v'harachamanim v'harachamaniyot. Hu yanenu.
Turning to page 242 at the bottom.
Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Rachamana de ane laniye anena. Rachamana de ane lemaki cherucha anena. Rachamana de ane lidvirei liba anena anena. Rachamana de ane lidvirei liba anena anena. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Rachamana nehina, rachamana chuz, rachamana peruk, rachamana shazev, rachamana rachem alon hashtabagara.
As we turn to page 243, we rise as we're able as the ark is opened. I'd also ask if one of the ushers could let the side trip know that we are on Avinu Malkeinu and invite them to rejoin us.
Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha.
Avinu
Avinu Malkeinu ein lanu melech elat. Avinu Malkeinu seimanu leman shmech. Avinu Malkeinu chadesh alenu shana tova. Avinu Malkeinu Avinu Malkeinu Avinu Malkeinu Avinu Malkeinu kale kol tzor. Avinu Malkeinu Avinu Malkeinu Avinu Malkeinu Salach machal Avinu Malkeinu Avinu Malkeinu hachazirenu b'tshuva shlema lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu hachazirenu b'tshuva shlema lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu shalach refuah shlema lecholei amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu shalach refuah shlema lecholei amecha.
Avinu Malkeinu zochrenu b'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu zacharenu b'zikaron tov lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer chayim.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer geula v'yeshua.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer parnasa v'chalkala.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer zichuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer zichuyot.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer slicha u'mechila.
Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer slicha u'mechila.
Avinu Malkeinu atzmach lanu Yeshua. Avinu Malkeinu harem keren Yisrael. Avinu Malkeinu keren Yisrael. Avinu Malkeinu shema kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu brachim v'tzanu tefillah. Avinu Malkeinu Avinu Malkeinu zor ki'afar. Avinu Malkeinu chamar. Avinu Malkeinu se'leman yivah Hashem k'vashem. Avinu Malkeinu leman tu'chol yedach. Avinu Malkeinu se'leman Yeshua mayim al-yushav. Avinu Malkeinu aseh leman chayim lo lemanenu. Avinu Malkeinu chonenu v'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu chonenu v'aneinu ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la la la.
As the ark is closed and we turn to page 245 for Kaddish Shalem, you may stand or sit as is your custom.
Yitgadol v'yitgadash shemei rabah.
Amen.
Be'alma tivra kiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh b'chayechonim v'yamechonim v'chayircho beit Yisrael. Ba'galav v'zman kariv v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi shemei rabah mevorach. Le'olam ul'ol me'olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalav shmei dekudisha b'richu leila leila mikol bechata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, damiram yomavim meru, amen. Titkabat soton voton decho Yisrael korom v'hund v'shmaya v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oh, se shalom bimromav, Uyase shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen. Now everyone may be seated as we invite our president, Warren Berger, to give our State of the Synagogue.
Should I be taller?
Please remember to stand and clap at appropriate times.
Or laugh? Shana Tova. I want to welcome those who are here in person in our social hall, as well as those who are streaming us into their homes. Next year, I hope the pandemic will have abated, right, so we can have more of you here with us. First, some thank yous. Our clergy, Rabbi Israel and Kenner Helsner, did a phenomenal job planning everything and leading us. The High Holiday Committee was led by Sam Gilston and Mark Diamond. And I want to thank the video production company, RCI. I want to thank our staff, Aaron Chusid, Amy Mattathias, Susan Davis, Emily Jarmuth, and Reva Nickens. The custodial and building staff, led by Augustine Valverde, along with Jenny and Nomi, among others. Service leaders over the high holidays, Jeff Bernstein, Jim Perlmutter, Jason Schwartz, Richard Letterman. Some of these are past, some are future. Youth for Family Services, Jenny Berger, Adina Schwartz, and Auntie A, of course. I want to thank the chauffeur blowers, Sam Gilston, Michael Joseph, and all the volunteers who, without you, we would not be able to put on these services. I unfortunately don't have the time to mention every single one, but I want to mention some of the leaders. Edna Bright, who led the design and construction of the new curtain for the Ark, Roz and Ted Cram for the plants in the social hall. The greeters were organized by Felicia Black and the ushers by Keith Brooks. Security, Neil Spar, the Bima Gabayim by Mark Pressman, all the Torah readers, and the other RPC coordination done by Susan Apter. Chair setup, Alan Apter and Sam Gilston. Side trips, Rabbi Lana Suskin and Danny Bachman. The Book of Remembrance was helped by Roz and some other people. Past presidents' honors, Hal Diamond. And finally, I want to thank Anita Brenner and Mike Cohen for giving us the beautiful music interlude at the beginning tonight. As you know, tomorrow's service starts at 9:30 here and on live stream, with lay-led in-person preliminary service at 9 o'clock. There are two alternatives for Yisker. The first one is at 2 p.m. outside of Rockville High School. The main one is here in the social hall and live stream during Mincha tomorrow, so that will be around 4:45 or 5 o'clock. Please check your email and tickets for more service times, although if you don't check email, then check your tickets. It's printed larger this year, so all of us can read it. And check the website in Bekesher for a schedule of future events. But I would like to mention one specific one. As part of our celebration of Simchat Torah on Tuesday, October 18th, we will honor Beth Smith as Kalat Breshit and Mark Pressman as Chatan Torah for their contributions to Tikvat Israel. Please join us for lunch after the morning service, and I hope many of you join me in making a contribution in their honor. Okay, so now the speech is starting. You can start your clocks. I'm going to start my speech with an old joke. A man says to his rabbi, I want to go to our Kol Nidre service, but it's the first week of October and there's a baseball playoff game that I really want to watch on television. What should I do? And the rabbi says, can you just record it? And the man says, are you saying I can record the Kol Nidre service? The funny thing about that is now you can. With live streaming and Zoom and YouTube, you can now watch the service afterwards instead of live. But I'm not going to recommend that. But my point is that things change. In fact, we as an organization have to change in order to survive and to better position ourselves to be the congregation we want to become in the future, and to serve the needs of the members we will have or become. So I'm going to talk a bit about our successes, our challenges, and the changes we need to make to go from here to there. First, in terms of staffing, we overcame some challenges and turnovers to have successes. The recent rabbi turnover at our neighbor Shoals in Montgomery County, where more than half have had a recent rabbi search, has fortunately not affected us. We renegotiated and renewed Rabbi Israel's contract for 8 more years. We're a great match, and the renewal provides long-term stability for us. We extended our beloved Cantor Helsner's contract for another 1 and potentially 2 years. And we established a multi-year contract with Early Childhood Center Director Debbie Unger. We have a very strong and overflowing ECC that is expertly led by Debbie that brings in net funds to our operations. We said goodbye to longtime Executive Director Sam Friedenberg and welcomed new Executive Director Aaron Chusa to our community. Similarly, we said goodbye to Amy Mattathias in her role as Office Manager and welcomed Susan Davis. I'm not going to lie, the office transition was one of the difficult challenges that we had to overcome. And it's not always gone perfectly, but I have confidence that Aaron and Susan can make us an even more efficiently operated organization in order to implement the recommendations of our strategic plan. One way that they have already followed the plan is with improved and streamlined communications. The strategic plan is the second of our successes that I want to mention. We owe a debt of gratitude for the extraordinary work done by Rachel Lipsey and her team in developing the strategic plan. It speaks to the effort and tenacity of the group to have conversations with so many congregants and even some non-members to collect the data. I fully support the new mission statement. Who remembers it? You don't count. Okay, I'll remind you. Our mission is to engage, embrace, inspire, and empower a Jewish community. The board, led by Beth Smith as the strategic planning coordinator, is starting to work on and achieve many of the first-year action items and lead us into the future. So those are some of the successes, but now I need to mention some of the remaining challenges. But first, let me be clear. Tikvat Israel is strong. We have a great relationship with Rabbi Israel and Cantor Helsner, and we are currently in a relatively stable financial situation, particularly thanks to a strong ECC. However, we do have some challenges. Of course, keeping our members safe during COVID is our highest priority, and fostering relationships between them when some are remote is a continuing challenge. Our building is aging. No leaks today. For many years, we have kept dues stable in order to be competitive with other congregations, but at the cost of deferring some necessary maintenance and equipment replacement. You may have noticed the sanctuary air conditioning problem we had at the beginning of the summer. Some of those HVAC components are still from the 1960s. We aren't attracting many young adults and families with young children, and we don't have our own religious school. We, like many synagogues, have had financial challenges in the past, and we have to make sure that we continue to collect dues, raise funds, and run our operations efficiently. So how do we solve these challenges? The strategic plan. It identifies where we want to be in the near future and some of how to get there. We need to address our aging building as part of empowering our board to have efficient operations that can serve the needs of our members. As some of you know, we are planning to start a capital campaign to raise funds for major repairs and replacements of equipment. We need to embrace and engage more young families. Shabbat Family Jam with Auntie A regularly attracts 10 to 20 children with their parents, many of whom are not TI members yet. We have created a significantly reduced dues categories for ECC families to entice them to join TI and experience what our community can provide to them beyond just daycare. This last innovative solution, a dues discount, has already led to 3 new member families, and therefore dues that we wouldn't have gotten previously. So this segues nicely into everybody's favorite part of this evening's presidential speech, the Kol Nidre appeal. I've been lucky that in the years that I and Jim have been president, our financial situation has been mostly good. Our revenue from dues has been good, though as our congregants age, they move to the senior tier and are billed a lower amount. Fortunately, many choose to join our high campaign and pledge significant sums above their regular dues amount. To these members, I want to say thank you, and I also want to thank Jamie Sokolow for leading this essential program. Our revenue from donations has been gratifying. Many members have been very generous, And we have had 2 very successful concerts to honor the cantor's anniversary and last year to honor past President Jim Perlmutter. However, we won't always have these widely successful fundraisers every year. Our contributions from the ECC have been positive and significant for the past couple of years, which many of you long-timers know has not always been the case. And of course, we got grants during COVID, loans that were forgiven, but we can't count on that in the future. But we have gotten some security grants also, so those help. As you know, facility costs have increased. We've had to make major repairs, significantly above the budget amount, for broken end-of-life equipment. We sacrificed maintenance in the past and are now suffering the consequences. And due to inflation, custodial and operating costs have increased. In order to improve the efficiency of the synagogue office, we've hired additional staff. All these necessary expenditures have made it even more challenging to maintain appropriate fiscal responsibility while trying to stick to the budget. So it's vitally important that we continue to maximize our revenue from dues and donations. As we go into Yom Kippur, think of what Tikvat Israel means to you. Think of the friends you have made in this holy community and those with whom you share life cycle events and with whom you comfort and who comfort you in times of illness and loss. As you know, TI relies on donations since dues do not fully cover the costs of operations. For those who haven't yet joined the Chai campaign, you should have picked up a pledge card in the lobby. It looks like this. On this night, when we hope that our prayers in the past 10 days will inscribe us for a healthy and happy 5783, please bend down an amount you can afford as an extra amount to indicate how much TI means to you and your family so that TI can be financially healthy in 5783. Can the ushers and a few board members collect pledge cards? Please join with your fellow congregants and show your commitment to the financial sustainability of Tikvat Israel. I'm almost at the end of my speech, and I haven't even mentioned volunteers yet, which is unusual for me. So briefly, if you have talents and skills that you can help make our community stronger, more welcoming, more caring, more efficient, you get the idea. Please talk to me or Aaron or the rabbi. Many opportunities await. And see my article in the current bulletin for more details about the openings. So I hope this wasn't too long. I started with a joke about baseball, pivoted into the need for change. Then I mentioned successes like new contracts, challenges such as the office staff transition, and some that remain, particularly in the area of building maintenance and, as always, finances. This led to the traditional Kol Nidre appeal, and then I briefly gave my customary plea for volunteers. Let's pledge together to implement our strategic plan, to build on our successes, overcome our challenges, and guide Tikvat Israel into a thriving future. Shana Tova Tikatevu, Gamar Chatima Tova. Wish everyone an easy and meaningful fast and a happy and healthy New Year.
And no, you did not go too long. So I want to thank Warren for his remarks. I also want to do my own quick al-Chait. One of my responsibilities was to make sure that Warren had the names of all the people who have helped to lead services, and I neglected to include in there Eleanor Lantner and Becky Miller, who so beautifully led us in Kol Nidre this evening. And so we want to express our deep appreciation to both of them as well. And now, we were talking about strategic planning, and Rachel Lipsy, and here she is. To lead us in Aleinu, we rise, page 246.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, Vigor Alenu Kefal Hamonam. Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kakatuv b'tortecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'nemar v'chaya Adonai le'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo
We'll may be seated. We'll continue page 248, the psalm for the season, the middle of the page, about 8 lines down, Achat Sha'alti.
Achat Sha'alti met Adonai otavakesh. Achat Sha'alti met Adonai otavakesh. Shivti beved Adonai kol yemei chayai. Lachazot benoam Adonai ulvaker behechalo. Lachazot benoam Adonai ulvaker behechalo.
At the bottom of the page.
האמנתי לראות בטוב אדוני בארץ חיים, קווה אל אדוני, חזק ויאמץ ליבך, וקווה אל אדוני.
Today, as we mark this Yom HaKippurim, we also note the yortzites of those who have died at this time in seasons past. Layla Dunsmore, Michael Goldstein, Selma Jackson, Tov Yehuda Jaffe, Robert Katz, Claire Lelouch, Moise Lelouch, David Lieberman, Miriam Ludwinowitz, Maurice Pressman, and Ethel Schneider. May each of them be remembered for a blessing. Those in mourning, those observing yortzeit, Mourner's Kaddish, page 247. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalmad divrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha berichu. La'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran v'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. And the nice thing about already having had our announcements is that we can turn directly to page 250 for Yigdal.
I would like to add 2 more names to our daveners this high holidays, Jason Levine and Cliff Fishman. Yashkoch. יגדל אלוהים חי וישתבח, נמצא וינט אל מציאותו, אחד ואין יחיד כייחודו, נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו, אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף, לא נערוך אליו קדושתו, קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא, ראשון ואין ראשית לראשיתו, הינו אדון עולם וכל נוצר, יורא גדולתו ומלכותו, שפע נבואתו נתנו אל אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו, לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד, נביא ומביט את אמונתו, תורת אמת נתן לעמו על יד נביאו, נאמן ביתו, לא יחליף האל ולא ימיר דתו, לעולמים לזולתו, צופה ויודע שתרנו מביט לסוף דבר בקדמתו, גומר לאיש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע רע כרישתו, ישלח לקץ ימין משיחנו, לפדות מחכה קץ ישועתו, מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדיין שם תהילתו, מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדיין שם תהילתו.
גמר חתימה טובה, ושנה טובה תחתנו.
I've done it to you many more times.
Good.